Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view? Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you'll cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in these United States, North American continent, Western Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, on this planet Earth. The only one we have. Third rock from the sun. In the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy, this is the Kennedy Effect, live with you for the 25th of June, 2023. Happy summer. The first day, of course, the summer solstice was this past week on the 21st. So happy official summer to you. Of course, we celebrate the unofficial kickoff to summer on Memorial Day weekend. So a hearty and happy and all of that fun stuff summer to you. We certainly hope that you are enjoying your summer so far, that you have had time to take with friends and family and for yourself to relax, to have some fun and so on. We've got a good probably 3 months of summer left, as September, really all of September has basically become a summer month. I want to welcome you again back to the show. I know we have had a very, very scattered schedule over probably since Mother's Day. So for almost 2 full months now, it's been a very, month and a half. It's been a very dodgy, scatterbrained, if you will, here and there sort of schedule. Not purposefully by any means. We enjoy being here with you. It means a lot for us to be here with you. But we simply, there's holidays and things involved, and you should be, Mother's Day, Father's Day, you should be with family. And then, of course, Memorial Day was in there. Really was Mother's Day, Father's Day, Memorial Day. And then I think I took an extra week in there somewhere because I was either sick or we had tech problems. I can't remember what it is now, but it's been a very dodgy schedule. We pride ourselves on being with you, being here each week and being reliable, and that that we're here, and that that when Sunday at 5 comes up, 5 Eastern, that we're here, And it hasn't been that way. Um, and I apologize for that. And it's not the best thing for a program, for a recorded podcast, for a live program, for anything to be so scattershot. Um, so we do apologize for that, but we also um, thank you deeply for returning and being here and caring and following and liking and subscribing and all of these different things. I went to do my TikTok promotional video today and found out we had 3 more followers. And it might not sound like a lot. And if you're Sergeant Mac, where you literally have over 1 million TikTok followers, the 350-ish, I think. No, we're not. I don't think we're even that high. The 325 that we have right now currently, doesn't really sound like a lot, but every single person that does it means a lot to me, because it means that they've listened. They gave us a fair shake, they gave us a try, and decided, good, not so bad, that I'll have it. And that's a really good thing, and we deeply appreciate it. Whether you agree or not, it really isn't the point. Like, it very much isn't the point. The fact is that you gave us a shot, and we're deeply grateful for that. Truly, truly, deeply grateful for it, because as important as information is, as important as truth is, and facts and science and data and all of it, as important as all of these things are, if there's still an entertainment element of the program, if folks don't listen, then nothing that we do here means anything. And you are. And it continues to grow. And it means everything. And I'm just very grateful. So to all the new people, and the Facebook group continues to add people as well. And that's a really cool thing too. It's slowed a little bit, but it seems that we continue to grow, folks. We continue to add folks and grow. I just realized how terribly crooked my glasses are. They're trapped under here. That's why it's hard to keep them straight. But that we continue to add folks into the Facebook group means quite a lot. And I just, yeah, I mean, it's a good thing. It's cool. And it does mean a lot to me. And, I'm very grateful. There's a lot of things you could do with your time. There's a lot of folks that you may or may not listen to. There's a lot of different outlets out there to entertain and to inform. And a good number of you continue to make this the place that you come. And it means everything. It really honestly does. It means an awful, awful lot. And we're very grateful to you. Let's get to the business end of the program, shall we? This is the Kennedy Effect live for the 25th of June, 2023. I am all by my lonesome this week. You are stuck with just me. No super informative, entertaining guests. Just little old me. Wherever you might be across the Facebook universe. And we have shared the program to... I would love to be able to tell you. I will tell you very shortly. 104, almost 110 places this week. I think it might be 109, 110, somewhere in that area. To all of the places that we have shared the program, thank you. And already, probably about a dozen groups have just automatically popped it up on their feeds. And we're very, very grateful to you. We all know that Mr. Zuckerberg owns Facebook, but when you carve out a space on Facebook, I kind of consider that to be yours, or consider it to be mine if it's my corner. So for you to let us into your corner of this vast Facebook universe means a lot to us. It really does. And we're very, very grateful to you for doing it. We continue to encourage every single person, every single one of you that listens, watches the program. Again, whether you like it, dislike it, agree, disagree, anything of the sort, we continue to ask you humbly, respectfully, please share the program everywhere on Facebook that you feel you are comfortable doing so. Whether that is individuals, other groups, other pages, just everywhere. The more people, again, that entertainment element is just part of the deal. It just is. But the more people that see, the more people continue to become part of the program, and we're grateful for that. To our sisters and brothers and friends and family at hot101.net, and especially to, let me see if I can find it very quickly. Oh, I can't tell who was cooking. I think it's DJ Waterboy that was cooking and sending pictures of his incredible grill and the food on it. Thanks for doing that right when I was just starting the show. There's nothing like seeing beautiful barbecued chicken and smoked ribs and everything just when you're sitting down to do a program and you don't want to eat in front of everybody. So thank you for that. But to our friends and family, sisters and brothers at hot101.net, of course, all the other DJs and the people that run and own hot101.net, thank you for being with us yet again on this Sunday, or depending on where you are around the globe, Monday morning. We thank you very much for allowing us to be part of your day as well. If you don't know how to listen to hot101.net, then you just simply haven't been paying attention, have you? And I scold you terribly for that. Let me tell you how it goes. Hot101.net. That name is also our web address. You can go to our main website and boom, as soon as it loads, you are listening. But that's not the only way that you can do it. You can go to the Apple App Store and download our app there. You can go to the Google Play Store, download the app there. If you have any other type of device, you can use the TuneIn radio app and listen to us there. There's no internet connected device on this planet where you cannot hear hot101.net. Everywhere on the globe, you can hear us, and you should. Flat out, you should be listening. Stream it on any kind of internet connected device, desktops, laptops, tablets, phones. You can Bluetooth it into your headphones, your earbuds, into your car. And of course, you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. We are also live on the TCP Media Group, an extraordinary, growing media outlet from right here in Pennsylvania, from the Lancaster area, but with national scope that you need to be following. And let us, of course, not forget the real business end of our program, our sponsor, the Pay Give app. You can make payments and buy gift cards to the largest retailers in this country and on this earth through the Pay Give app. And when you do, you can designate part of your fee or part of the money that you're spending to go to charitable causes all around the globe, including the Red Cross, the American Lung Institute, the Shriners Hospital, and more than I can even name. The Pay Give app is our sponsor. We are honored and humbled to have them as our first sponsor, as an indication that we are getting somewhere here on this program and that people are listening, that a great organization like the Pay Give app is willing to advertise here. I strongly, strongly encourage you. It has my complete endorsement. Please check out the Pay Give app. Pay Give. You have to pay for things anyway. Give while you pay. The phone line is open as far as I'm concerned. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. I do not know why my name is not on the screen currently. Not sure what's going on with that. That's new. It should be there. I'm not certainly at all sure why it isn't. I had to reboot the computer earlier today. I was trying to take part in a meeting and realized that I had no sound, couldn't talk to people in this meeting. Everything was going wrong. Quite literally, everything was going wrong. And I just, I don't know what happened. The headset wouldn't work. The mic wouldn't work. There was this very strange buzzing and clicking and so on happening. And I just thought, wow, everything's going to go pear-shaped. And to an extent, it did. To an extent, it did. Insofar as my name doesn't seem to be appearing on the screen for whatever reason, and neither is the phone number, and that's a bummer. I don't quite get that part. But what can I say? It's just, it is what it is. I don't know. Oh, God. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. But, you know, look, we press on, right? I mean, what are we going to do? We press on. So I don't know why my name's not there. It just isn't for some reason. Especially since the phone number is in there, which means, I don't know. I will try to add it somewhere else as we talk. But that said, let me just, as always, thank you for making us part of your day. It does mean anything. It does mean everything to us. This is what happens when I try to talk and type at the same time. I say things and I say them wrong. I say them. They just end up all over the place. So, I am entering the phone number, and it will begin to appear on the crawl at the bottom, on the Chiron at the bottom. So that's cool. So take that. So it should be coming up there, and then you'll see the phone number, 267-227-9189. It's also right behind me. I'm not doing a very good job of telling you the weather at this point, am I? But it is right behind me. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. I have no idea why my name is not appearing over the... I don't know. It's insane. All right, that said, let's get to it. There are no scheduled guests with us tonight. It's just you and me. It's just you and me. It's just all of us. And whatever conversation we choose to have. I have a series of articles that I wanted to get through. I have the things that I mentioned in the show announcements that I wanted to get through. And we will just carry along as far as we can go, right? I mean, I have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning for work, so if not much happens, I will free you to your day. But if there is folks to call in, if there are comments to be had, I beg you, please add them. Now, the commenting is interesting. Bettina says, I couldn't find the live stream on Facebook. Find me on Facebook. It's also at every one of the 110 groups that we share to. Go to our home group Facebook page, that other side of information. Go there. You can find it there, Bettina, or come to my home, my own Facebook, Jeff Kennedy. You'll find it there. We are also live on Facebook right now, or on YouTube right now, Wow, my brain's not working, kids. We are live on YouTube right now as well. If you go to YouTube, go up to the search That Other Side of Information. You will find our channel and you will see us live there. So, Bettina, I am thrilled that you are here again. It means a lot to me. Every single one of you mean a lot to me. That is how you can find us. Find Jeff Kennedy on Facebook, That Other Side of Information on Facebook, That Other Side of Information on YouTube. Randall already tried to call and I think hung up. That's fine. I know he's going to call again. It also means he's feeling better because remember, folks, if you were with us 2 weeks ago, he was having so much trouble with the smoke in the air that he couldn't even call us and talk to us. So the fact that he's trying to call and talk to us means a lot to me. Let me talk a little bit about a couple of things happening here a little closer to home. Daisy the dog is doing brilliantly. She's doing brilliantly. She had her surgery. She is recovering just amazingly well. She's very far ahead of schedule in her recovery. She's walking. She's trying to run and do things she's not supposed to do. She can walk up and down stairs. She has a slight limp. And I have to be honest, if she lived the rest of her life with that limp, I don't think anyone would notice, and I don't think she would notice. But she's expected to make a full and complete recovery after being hit by a car. If you remember 2 weeks ago, I did tell you about that. We learned a lot about Daisy, and I learned as if I needed to learn, and I don't think that I did. I learned a lot more about just how amazing my partner is and what a good mom she is. But she is doing well. She's recovering. And I have to say that I still can't get over the callousness of the person that hit her. It is, I just can't. I don't even know what to say, to be honest. I really don't. And it's sad. It's sad that people can be that cold. And I have said to you before, you've been kind enough to listen and indulge me in my feelings about this. But until we stop treating these sentient, caring, most loyal souls we don't even deserve, until we stop treating them and legally categorizing them as property, then I fear that nothing is ever going to change. But just wanted to give you a brief update on Miss Daisy the dog. She is doing brilliantly, and I can't wait for her and Kristen to get home, and so that we can be whole here again. And Bettina, if you are still with us, again, I see your comment here in the chat that you're having trouble getting in or finding us. If you find us, please let me know, or I will continue to try to direct you where to find us. Randall, you are on the phone, sir. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. Compared to 2 weeks ago when we had that smoke. Worse air pollution than any other city on the planet. And that, Bombay, New Delhi.
Oh, no. You know what? I'm not going to let you claim number one. That was us here in the Lehigh Valley. We had the single worst air quality in the country, at least 2 days on the trot. I remember the Wednesday of that week, you could smell the smoke, but it looked like a white haze, and the sky was still a little bit blue. Thursday, it got a little worse. but it was still sort of white smoke. The sun was still out. Sky's still pretty much blue. It looked more like fog. That Friday, though, I think I have that right. It was the Friday, or was it the Thursday that it was orange outside? It might have been the Thursday. Maybe I have my days screwed up, but it was orange outside. It looked post-apocalyptic. It looked like a movie set where they were filming through a filter, the kind of filter that they might use to, make it look like it's nighttime or something like that. It was post-apocalyptic. And it's very important, folks, what Randall's mentioning here. He didn't just have trouble breathing because of any other range of factors. It's because we're on one planet. We are all riding around on one integrated, somehow still blue orb, circling the sun, circling the center of the galaxy, in a galaxy floating through the universe. And we are interconnected, not just by these electronic means that we are using right now to talk to each other, but when the forests burn in Canada, we can't breathe in Pennsylvania. That's about as interconnected as it gets. And this, I will again discuss this complete lie and fallacy that has been fed to us by the right wing since Reagan, that we are not a community, that we are just a group of rugged individuals. We'll tell that to people like Randall, who couldn't breathe because a forest fire 2,000, well, now it's more, not as much as 2,000, about 1,000 miles away, was choking the life out of him. Tell me that's not interconnected. Anyway, sir, it is very good to hear from you. I had to make that point very quickly. It's very good to hear from you. I'm glad that you are feeling better. And just tell me generally how you're, it's over now, right? Are you feeling better now? You're all good now? Or at least just functional?
I'm functional with my COPD. So, yeah, I'm not having to grab my rescue inhaler like I did 2 weeks ago. Way too many times beyond the prescribed number of doses per day. But, yeah. Anyway, down here in Delaware County, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning, and it's coming. It's coming. They're saying we might get like 1 to 2 inches in an hour. So,
how about the tornado warning? Did you get a tornado warning?
We were in total drought and got less than a half an inch for the whole month of May. And now here in in June, it's just boom, boom, week after week, days after days, that we're getting hit. Of course, this is all weather coming up from the southwest into the southeast, and then up the coast. Yeah, we are interconnected. Everything is interconnected.
Do you have a tornado warning or no?
No, we don't have a tornado warning. So far, it's just a severe thunderstorm warning. So,
because we had a tornado warning up here earlier in the week. I can remember when I was a kid, if we got a tornado warning, it was an event. Like, it was a real proper event. It was something that people talked about, for weeks. Holy cow, we got a tornado warning. They've become regular now. And I've told this story on the program before. Once, when I was a child, once, we got hail. And my dad had to explain it to me. And I didn't believe him when he explained it to me. He picked up a whole handful of it. It was the middle of summer. It was, one of those days that after the storm came through, the humidity actually got worse. I mean, it was disgusting outside. It was oppressive. But the sun, the storm rolled through, the hail came down, and the sun came right out after it, and you could watch the dark clouds move out east, off the horizon. And I remember my father taking me outside, and he lifted up a big handful of what were hail pellets, They were about the size at that point of I'd say maybe a cube of gum. I wouldn't quite say mothballs. They weren't that big, but they were bigger than Tic Tacs. They were somewhere in between there, if that makes any sense. About the size of a chiclet, maybe, let's say. They still make chiclets, or did I make myself really old there? But that said,
They still make chiclets.
and he said, "Do you have any idea what this is?" And I said, "No." He goes, "It's ice." And I said, "It can't be ice, Pop. It's July." I think it was July at the time when this happened. I said, "It's July. It can't be ice. It's too hot out." He goes, "No, it's ice. It really is." And he just had this discussion trying to teach me about hail, about how ice could fall out of the sky in the middle, and the warmest of days, the most humid of days. But yeah, that's become a regular thing. Hail's become a regular thing. It used to be an aberration. It was an outlier. It was a special event, if you will, and that's become a regular thing. I mean, folks, if you can't tell that something's different about the climate, then I just don't know. I don't know what you're listening to. And the one thing that I've continued to forget to mention that I do think is hilarious in a sad way, because we have it on our cable system, and I can only imagine that most of the cable systems in the country have it, probably more than want it, and more than certainly no one needs it. But a couple of years ago, the Weather Channel and the people that own it and operate it made a conscious decision that they were going to base their coverage of the weather inside the truth of global climate change. That when they were covering a hurricane, they would explain to people that this hurricane exists and its damage potential is so much higher because of global climate change. To discuss ocean temperatures and ocean currents and changing ocean temperatures and currents, the severity of tornadoes, the frequency of tornadoes and hail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The smoke, they did a lot of coverage of that. And remember last summer here in the Commonwealth, we got smoke from California. But they made a conscious decision that they were going to base their weather reporting within the truth, the scientific fact of global climate change. And as a reaction to that, damn liberals and their facts and their science, as a response to that, Fox, Murdoch's, began the Fox Weather Channel. And every time I flip through my channels, it's there. Fox Weather. It's right there for me to see if I choose to do so. I do not. But it's right there. Fox Weather. Because they won't tell you. They're not going to tell you about this liberal conspiracy of global climate change. No, no, no. Clearly the Earth isn't getting warmer because it still snows. That's literally how they look at it. But they started an entire third channel really, because Fox Business does the same thing about economy. They started a third channel just to lie to you. And remember, the Dominion case showed us through the discovery and grand jury, or through the discovery process and the deposition process, that Fox lies for a living. They admitted it. They admitted it in court, under oath, under threat of perjury. They lie for a living. So Fox News lies about the news and politics. Fox Business lies about the economy and lies to you and tells you that what's good for trillionaires is good for you. Billionaires. We're not too far from trillionaires. And then Fox Weather lies to you about global climate change. And the interconnectivity that Randall just mentioned. That when Canada burns, the U.S. can't breathe. When the western U.S. burns, parts of Canada and Mexico can't breathe. And so on, and so on. So go ahead, my friend. I needed to make that point. Keep going.
No, I'm just thinking, my 70 your life. Growing up, being born and growing up in Wichita, Kansas till age 10, and then my father getting transferred when Boeing bought Berthold helicopter here, and you know, and living right here in Western Delaware County the whole rest of my life. But I grew up in what was traditionally the plain states were traditionally the tornado belt. I survived the tornado. I went back for the summer when I was 14 to work on a ranch that my brother-in-law was foreman of, and we survived a direct hit tornado. Never want to go through that ever again. But that belt has shifted. It's shifted eastward out of the plains. Not as much traditional tornado belt. The plains.
You mean, generally referred to as Tornado Alley, has grown tremendously and it has moved east.
Yeah, and again, you know, I moved here. There was never any tornadoes here when I moved here, and yes, over the years, we've been getting small tornadoes, magnitude 1, and now we're getting magnitude 2 and 3s, and it's not rare anymore at all. And the South, just, well, you couldn't pay me to move south because of the political climate. Anyway, whether it's Texas or Florida or whatever. But
well, that would be it'd be very much like moving to another country at this point, to be honest. I mean, I think we'd have to tell the truth about that part. But yeah, it's like moving to another country, isn't it?
Anyway, but
in fact, I would let me on this
more extreme down there, and
well, since we're talking about this,
the Guardian article this week, where the Republicans passed in the state legislature, and Texas Governor Abbott signed, making it illegal for any local municipality like Dallas or Fort Worth,
Austin,
to require that 10 minutes be given every 2 hours to workers that are outside, like roofers.
No,
for example.
Every 4 hours. Just every 4 hours.
Okay. But anyway, the bottom line is, they don't care. They scream we have no workers that want to work. No, people don't want to work in ungodly, killing environments. I mean, you had a postman delivering mail that killed over from the heat wave, in Dallas last week. It's just mind-boggling that the right wing, they're multi-millionaire and billionaire
owners.
They don't care about anything except money. They don't care about any of our health. I guess they think they're going to be able to go live on a satellite or something in orbit after the whole planet's polluted. You know, thinking that their money's going to buy that or something. It's just ludicrous.
Well, look, it's a psychopathy. It is a form. It's a form of mental illness. There is not. You don't have to travel a huge distance. What's the word I'm looking for here? There's not a huge difference between the old person that lives in the corner of your block who has every magazine, every copy of Time magazine for the last 60 years, tied up in bundles and stacked up along every single wall, or the person who has 100 cats, or stacks and stacks of newspapers or every tire that they've ever used on their vehicles. It's a hoarding mentality, and it's a psychopathy. It is a mental deficiency of behavior that it's a hoarding of money. It's a collecting of money in the same way that those folks collect cats or magazines or buttons or any pieces of ribbon or car tires or license plates or any one of 100, or 1,000 other things. It's a hoarding mentality where it goes beyond hoarding and becomes extremely dangerous and deadly, as Randall has mentioned, is when we cross the line that Senator Sanders has talked about, that not only now, since the year 2000, and I think the most recent statistics for this go up into 2018. So the stat is a little old. I don't have any new stats about the Biden administration, but certainly into the Trump regime. And since the year 2000, since George W. Bush, every dime of new wealth created in this country went to the top 1%. And what Senator Sanders tells us through his information in the seat that he sits in is that not only is all that new wealth going to the top 1%, they are now extracting wealth from the bottom 99. So while they have gained trillions, almost $30 trillion of wealth, the bottom 99% has lost trillions of dollars of wealth, and that it has been shifted to the top 1%. And that's where this psychopathy gets deadly. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. Because I'm already rich, and because clearly God loves me more, and we're smarter, and we work harder than you. $55 trillion in income tax cuts for the top 1% since Reagan is not working harder. That's not building something because you just worked harder at it, because you just wanted it more. That's the scales being tipped in your favor, because the money that you had in 1980, you spent and bought yourself a political party and a president. It's not working harder. That's changing the rules of the game. It's tipping the scales. And that's where this hoarding mentality has gotten deadly and dangerous, and it's why it threatens democracy itself. The small d democratic process, the Constitution, voting, campaigning, some media are the only things left protecting the 99% from the 1%. Exactly why the top 1% has decided that democracy is no longer convenient, and nor do they need it. It's where this hoarding mentality gets dangerous and deadly. And if you listen to the program enough, it's a phrase that we use all the time now, and I'm actually getting quite sick of it, because I find it a tad bit condescending, but it is true. We all need to wake up to realize this, or the country that we've come to know won't exist. Remember, the United Nations has named the United States as a sliding democracy, a failing democracy, that we are sliding into autocracy and fascism. The United Nations said that, not me. Not me. The fact that the Canadian government consistently plans for when democracy ends here and how are they going to handle it. I didn't make that story up. They're doing it. It's a fact. So this hoarding mentality, it's not just like having a jar full of shirt buttons or Every Time magazine since the war. It's about you have a class of billionaires in this country. Remember, we made new billionaires during the pandemic. When the entire economy was shut down, we somehow created new billionaires. How does that work? And this class of people has decided that not only is everything that they have theirs, everything that you have is theirs. And that's where it becomes dangerous and deadly. Now, the article that Randall is alluding to, and he is very, very right to do so. I would like to try to find it, sir, while you are here. I will find it. And we can talk about it because you were kind enough to bring it up. Where did you go, sir? I lost it. I had it. Now I got to find it again. Darn it. There we go. The article that Randall is alluding to is an article that I posted just 18 hours ago. Surprise, surprise, it's from The Guardian. It really is my go-to media source. It should be yours too. I will read the first two paragraphs. Or maybe I'll read a little more. Let me open it. Amid a danger, the article is titled Texas Governor Signs Bill Rescinding Water Breaks as Deadly Heat Grips State of Texas. Manva Singh is the author of the article on behalf of The Guardian. I posted this Friday the 23rd. It was written on Friday the 23rd. I posted about 18 hours ago. Amid a dangerous heat wave that has brought blistering temperatures across Texas, the state's governor, Greg Abbott, signed a law this week eliminating local rules requiring water breaks for workers. The measure, which will take effect later this year, will nullify ordinances enacted by, surprise, surprise, the two blue cities in Texas. Well, there's three. Houston is. Austin and Dallas that mandate 10-minute breaks for construction workers every 4 hours. It also prevents any other local governments from passing similar worker protections. Just days after Abbott signed the law, officials said a 35-year-old utility lineman working to restore power in Marshall, Texas, died after experiencing symptoms of heat illness. That's the article that Randall was alluding to. I have a lot of thoughts about this, as Randall does too, and he is welcome to discuss them. This is cruel. It's medieval. It's like the landed gentry versus the serfs. It's fascistic. But also, remember when Republicans prided themselves on being the quote-unquote party of small government and local control. What Greg Abbott did here is not just bow down to the corporations and rich that own him. He didn't just kill workers. He violated that, what used to be a basic tenet principle of Republicans, that local governmental control was always better than the level of government above it. State was always better than national. County was always better than state. Local was always better than county. Nope. Nope. Nowhere in Texas can you have a water break now because the state told you you can't. And what does that prove on a larger level? That Republicans are absolutely full of shite. It proves that they are owned. The construction industry in Texas doesn't even want to offer or have to pay their workers for 10 minutes so they can drink water. Or in a 10-hour day, 20 minutes. Nope. Die in the heat. Rather than absorb the cost of paying a worker for the 10 minutes that they would have to be able to take a water break. If that's not fascistic, I don't know what is. If that's not corporatist, I don't know what is. And if it doesn't prove exactly who owns the Republicans, I don't know what will. And in fact, it proves what I have been telling you here, not just because I'm telling it to you, but because it's now proven that the Republicans are a corporation now. Not a political party, they're a corporation. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, an employee of the rich that own him, did what he was instructed by them to do. And then, of course, the scary part of it is that millions of Texans support it. Or at least they'll support it until one of their friends or family members dies of heat stroke. Sometimes, folks, you get exactly the government you voted for. And sometimes you get exactly the government you deserve. Texas deserves better, but they continue to vote for people like Greg Abbott and George W. Bush and Rick Perry. Sometimes you get exactly what you deserve. And that sounds very cold. And it sounds very cold. And it might even sound cruel from me. I don't consider myself a cruel person, but it is the truth. Sometimes you get exactly what you deserve. So go ahead, sir. What else did you want to talk about? Or what did you want to add to that, if anything?
We've talked about climate change, and we talked about Republican overlords demanding that they just treat human beings as animal fodder to be thrown away after being used. But we've got something big coming up in Philadelphia Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week, leading up to the 4th of July. And that is the National Convention for the radical extremist group Moms for Liberty Convention. And it's happening in Philadelphia. And many right-wing Republican politicians say they're going to come. Florida's governor said he's coming. Donald Trump said he's coming. To talk to this fascist group that is taking over our school boards left and right across this country in the name of parental guidance. Now, they're the ones that are banning the books. They're the ones that are banning trans student athletes from playing in their gender idea of themselves. They're the ones that absolutely want to privatize every public school system 1,000%.
And
every public school system.
And
that's their hidden agenda. That's their hidden agenda.
And profitize it. Privatize and profitize. They want your tax dollars to put into their pockets. And I think we have to be honest about something. And a lot of my Democratic friends are not going to appreciate this. Governor Shapiro is pushing an expanded school voucher program. He wants to increase the amount of money used for school vouchers.
I'm totally upset our governor. I'm totally upset our governor supporting this Republican majority in the PA Senate to allow unlimited voucher money. Of course, he says, but you can't use any of the school tax money to do that. But he's in favor, and I just don't understand that. I'm a firm believer in public education.
So was Thomas Jefferson. So was Benjamin Franklin.
So is Benjamin Franklin.
If the governor can somehow keep tax dollars out of this expanded voucher program, I will. That is a balancing tightrope act I would pay money to see. I don't see how that works exactly. But just the support for expanding vouchers in the first place seems... I'm trying to think of a term that isn't derogatory. It would be a non-starter for me, and it would seem to me that someone as genuinely bright, smart as the governor would know better. It is disappointing at a minimum. And I know some of my Democratic colleagues and friends and supporters are going to disagree with me on that, and God bless them. You can disagree with me about anything they want. That's part of America. But this is wrong. It's a wrong move. It's a bad move. And we know vouchers don't work. We know they don't help anyone except the private education industry. We know it's a way to funnel tax monies out of struggling districts who need more money, not less, more resources, not less, better buildings, not worse, more teachers, not less. It sucks that money out and sends it into people's pockets, period. We know that. That's not a theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. And it is disappointing that someone as genuinely bright and smart and experienced as the governor of Pennsylvania would support such a thing. He's wrong. And anyone who might think that he is correct, please, you are beyond welcome here to tell me why you might think I'm wrong. Debate is good for democracy. The governor himself is more than welcome. He'll never come here, but he's more than welcome. His lieutenant governor is more than welcome. His secretary of education is more than welcome. Tell me why it's a good idea. Convince me. Make the case. Maybe there's something in it that I don't know, and I'm happy to learn it if there is. But I don't believe that I am. And I think most Pennsylvanians don't believe that I am. Certainly Democratic and Independent and Green and Libertarian Pennsylvanians don't think I'm wrong. That was a real disappointing piece of news when I found that out, I can tell you that. Top of the hour, 6 o'clock, we enter our second hour. Welcome to the Kennedy Effect Live for 25th of June, 2023. If you are new to the program, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are a returning viewer and listener, welcome, welcome, welcome one and all. Wherever you are across the Facebook universe, and we have shared the program to, last time I checked, there was 120 shares going on. Thank you. We are humbled by it. We are sincerely grateful for it. If we can't do what we do without you, and without you supporting us and helping us, we are exceptionally grateful for it. Thank you for allowing us onto your little corner of the Facebook universe, whether it is your own personal timeline, your group, your private group, your public page, whatever it might be. Thank you for allowing us to be there. We encourage you, strongly encourage you, to please join and take part in the program. We are taking calls after I say goodbye to Randall. The phone line will be open. We want your comments. We want your questions. We want all of it. It's just you, all of you, and me here this week. And we will go as long as we have something to talk about. The Villain's View comes up, of course, at 9 p.m. So thank you, Facebook, and thank you to all the groups, pages, people, everyone across the Facebook universe that allows us to be there and that shares the program. Hot101.net, our name is our web address. If you have an internet-connected device, you can listen to us, period. It's that simple. Hot101.net, our name is our web address. Apple App Store for Apple devices, Google Play Store for Android devices, and the TuneIn radio app. And you can Bluetooth us on headphones, earbuds, in the car, speakers, and you can tell Alexa to play Hot101.net. When you're on Facebook, you should be checking out the TCP Media Group. If you think we post important things on that other side of information, and I believe that we do, then you really want to check out TCP, the TCP Media Group. And of course, the Kennedy Effect is now sponsored by the Pay Give app. You can make payments, transfers, and buy gift cards on the Pay Give app. And when you do, a portion of what you spend can be designated to the candidate or charity of your choice. The Pay Give app. You have to pay for things anyway. Why not give while you do it? The Pay Give app. paygive.org. Second hour of the Kennedy Effect is with you. If you ever miss any of our program, go to our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. We are live there right now. And when we are done, the video will stay there, and you can go back and watch and catch up on anything that you might possibly have missed. I have yet to completely decide, to be honest with you, if we're going to be here next Sunday. That would be July the 2nd. It would be, for some folks, because July 4th falls on a Tuesday, might be a really long weekend for some people. I haven't entirely decided whether we're going to be here yet on July 2nd, but we have a really, really exciting guest coming up on July 9th, and I will tell you about that a little later in the program. Randall, what else did you want to talk about, sir, before there are other people trying to ring in, but I want to give you time because you are my friend, and I am thrilled that you are feeling better. And it's been a while since we've talked, so I want to give you time, sir. What else did you want to mention before we offer the opportunities to some other folks?
You said we were going to discuss things that happened this past week or the past 2 weeks, and we have discussed some.
Go ahead. Oh, did I lose you? Oh, no, I think when other people are ringing in, they're blocking Randall off the phone. I think that's what's happening. Someone keeps trying to ring in, and I'm very thrilled. I need a minute. I will let you know, folks out there. I will let you know when the phone line is open. There's only one. There's only one, because we use a free little bit of software for it. There's only one phone line. As soon as it is open and available, I will let you know. So whomever it is that continues to try to ring in, thank you. I'm thrilled. Just give me a minute. I will let you know as soon as it's open. Randall, go ahead, sir.
You need to talk about the debauchery that's happened in Russia with the oligarchy dictators.
I absolutely. That was one of the things I was going to get to for sure.
Almost pollution. But anyway, I'm going to let you go because other people want to call in.
That is definitely.
From flying back from Wilmington, North Carolina, where she saw my youngest daughter and my second granddaughter, who's 2 months old. So I got to go and say hi to Andrew. So I will listen, but God bless.
Well, we are absolutely going to talk about how Russia kind of went up to the brink of civil conflict. I wouldn't say civil war. I don't think it was ever going to get that serious, but certainly some civil conflict, and certainly the most important challenge to Putin in his reign happened yesterday. We are going to talk about that because it is fascinating, and it is. Do you think the American media seems to be spinning it as a continuing story? I think that story might very well be done, or at least the major parts of it, or at least it's going to be quiet for a little while. But yeah, a nuclear-armed nation nearly went to war with itself yesterday. And that's a damn big story. And we are going to talk about it. Thank you for reminding me of it. We will get to it. It is one of the things that I want to talk about that happened this past week. In fact, it literally happened about, not even 36 hours ago, really. About 30, when I woke up, not just woke up, but came, downstairs after a shower and so on to try to catch up on the news. This thing was unfolding. So it was really, really fascinating to watch. We will talk about it. My friend, my best to you and the entire family. I beg you to please, please, please take care of yourself and stay healthy, okay?
And to your better half, Darlene, take care of this man.
My much better half is still taking care of Daisy. So, and that is much better half. You want to talk about punching above your weight? That would be me. And by a long way. Phone line is open now. Phone line is open. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. But let's talk about the almost civil conflict that happened in Russia yesterday. It was a fascinating story. And again, I think the American media might be overblowing it a tiny bit for the ratings aspect, that this is still a unfolding story. I don't know that it is still an unfolding story, to be honest with you. I think it may have run its course. But it is still very, very interesting that the head of Putin's own private army was willing to take that army to the capital and occupy it. And was, for a day or two, occupying the southern command headquarters of the Russian military, Rostov, a city with about 1.2 million people. Here's the interesting thing that I've only heard one of the talking heads mention. That the head of the Wagner group, and I'm consistently mispronouncing his name, and I've been practicing it, and yet now forgot how to say it. So I'm just going to skip it for now. I will look it up somewhere to see if I can figure out how to say it again. He occupied a city. I don't think that he was marching to Moscow to bring democracy to Russia. He is an oligarch in his own right, and a butcher from all Western reports. He was going, I think, largely as a threat. There's been lots of talk about this deal that was brokered by the head of Belarus, which is a Putin puppet. That the head of Wagner is going to now live in Belarus. The Wagner soldiers, thugs mostly, criminals, murderers, etc., who are told you can get out of jail if you go fight with Wagner. And somehow these people are supposed to be integrated into the regular Russian military. A military that the head of their group has been telling them for months doesn't know what it's doing, is only fighting in Ukraine for profit, doesn't care about them, doesn't care about Russia, but somehow now they're going to become part of that military. And by the way, if I was a Wagner soldier who listened and said, we're going to Moscow, and then my the head of my group, my commander, just said, never mind, we're not going to do that, and now I'm going to go live in Belarus, and you are all going to become part of the Russian military, I think I'd probably just go home. My guess is, and Bettina says it in the chat, they took a deal. Suspect the same thing. I suspect that he was probably paid about $1 billion, and he's going to go live a very comfortable life in Belarus. If Putin doesn't kill him first, or kill him eventually. Because we all know that that's what Mr. Putin does. He poisons, he sends hit squads, he jails and tortures. So the head of Wagner, it was not a young man in his own right, and not in any kind of shape unless you're talking round. I don't know that the story's quite over for him quite yet. He did show that the support for Putin is not as ironclad and strong as we all have been told that it is. When you see the video of the citizens of Rostov approaching the Wagner soldiers and their equipment, taking pictures on it, and the Wagner soldiers like, yeah, climb up on the tank, take a picture, no problem. Cheering the head of Wagner when he returned from the highway to Moscow, taking pictures with him. He's giving speeches in the streets. They were thrilled to have Wagner in control of their city. Thrilled. That's the part that should say something. Not that Kabrosny himself, I probably said that really wrong. I need to look it up again and try and figure out how to say it. Not the fact that he was willing to try to take on the Russian military and by extension Putin himself. The fact that one of the largest cities in Russia was happy to be occupied by Wagner. Happy. In the streets, celebrating, cheering, taking pictures, giving them food. That's one of the things that came out of this that the media doesn't seem to be talking too much about. American media has become very xenophobic. These new American news channels used to have reporters all around the globe, and they don't to the same extent anymore, or they have freelancers. But I think that they were missing the point that you had a city of 1 million people, or at least a good chunk of it, out on the streets being happy that they're Pogroznin. That's how you say it, Pogroznin. That it wasn't Russian civilian and military authorities in charge of the city, or the government of the city. It was the Wagner Group, and they were quite happy about it. That should tell us something about what the Russian people really think. And it also doesn't mean that that's how they feel all across Russia. But certainly in Rostov, a city home to Russian military command, would rather have been under the control of the Wagner Group should tell us something. It really should tell us something. Anyway, caller, you're on the air. First name and where you're calling from, please.
You know where I'm calling from. It's Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the funniest thing is that I've been following this a lot. And the thing of the matter is that, you know, again, it sounds like a cop-out when you're talking about it. The history repeats itself. I can see not all, the majority of Russian military commanders at a higher level looking at Putin the way they must have looked, not those men, but the German high command must have looked at Hitler. You can't get a lot out of them because naturally they're not going to say anything or they end up in Siberia with a bullet in their head. But the point of the matter is they don't really seem to have their heart in this. And, you know, they may have thought going into the Ukraine was going to be a somewhat not easy thing, but oh, what the heck, you know, we got more than military might and all this. But again, knowing history, that is the wrong area of Russia to actually go marching into. And I get foreign affairs and I read all this stuff and I look at it and I'm thinking, somebody's got to have the cojones to actually look at him and say, look, we're not going to return to the days when you were CIA, a KGB agent, and the good old days of Russia, and we're going to go back. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. You're going to have to do something. It's a point now that I look at it, and I'd like to look at him and go, beyond pride, what in God's name are you doing? This is your wheat, this is your oil production, and you think you're just going to walk in there, and if you bomb, destroy it? The outposting around a military depot around Chernobyl. Oh my God! Okay, smart strategy. Ukrainians are never going to bomb it or missile it. All right, definite reasons. It's self-explanatory. But still, there's been scientists talking about the leakage, still some radiation in there, and they just outpost them is just a flagrant disregard for their own people. And I think that's the problem. You've had to go to mercenaries. I wouldn't let my son in any kind of military thing like that where you're just cannon fodder. That's all it is. Here, go down the road and you're not gonna run into anything, and you'll be okay. And I don't know. It's just you can't get rid of them because, like George Bush Sr. said, and they said to him, why don't you take out Saddam Hussein? Well, who are you going to put in? At that time, he had sons still alive, and they were crazier than the old man. Who are you going to put in there? This boob? I think this guy is trying to think, I can walk in there. If I can tell the Russian people your sons are not being displaced to be shot, that I can make this victory, there may be a coup. But I don't know. It's
one of the fascinating things that has come out of this that I learned, I have to say, is Prigozhin, the history of Prigozhin himself, the head of Wagner, or at least I guess he would say now former head of Wagner, as he has, given that away and is going to go to Belarus. But that said, his history is really kind of a testament to how dysfunctional Russia really was.
Yeah.
And how at the end of the Reagan administration and the first Bush administration, this embracing of libertarianism that just, rich people will go in and figure out, how to divide everything, and they'll set up a free market and all of that. And really all that happened was this small handful of people who we've come to now know as the oligarchs became fabulously wealthy and only ever got wealthier. Prigozhin began his ascension. He's quite literally a hot dog cart vendor. In fact, maybe his story is more of an American story than we have here now. He was a hot dog cart vendor. He somehow came to the attention of Putin himself. Maybe he made really, 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 really good hot dogs. I honestly don't know. But he became Putin's chef. And as the former Soviet state was being sold off or handed off to what became this oligarchical structure, Pogroznin found himself landing defense contracts. He's an extremely wealthy man and managed to get the Russian government to create the Wagner Group in the first place. This was Putin's private army. Wagner operates in the Central African Republic, where they enslave the local population to mine for gold and diamonds, and Pogroznin gets the money. They operated in Syria during the Syrian Civil War. They are the ones largely responsible for not just leveling the city of Aleppo, but killing almost everyone that ever lived there. They also got into a bit of a firefight with U.S. troops, peacekeeping troops, the ones who were protecting the Kurds that Trump left to die, and got cut to pieces. Which was extremely interesting because I think it was only about 25 U.S. soldiers that killed about 500 Russians. And it was basically a shooting gallery. Several of the soldiers reported it wasn't even a fight. But Wagner operates around the globe illegally, supporting Putin's interests. So for the head of Wagner to turn on him was a big deal. But I also think that it's speculation on my point. I have to be fair. I have to be honest. If Mr. Pogroznin was so upset with the operation of the Russian government, the Russian military, and the way the war in Ukraine was being conducted, then he would have gone on to Moscow and tried to take control. I also think that he felt large sections of the Russian military would rally to his cause. They did not. When he says that they turned around to avoid bloodshed, I think he's probably telling the truth, but it was probably his bloodshed he was trying to stop. My gut feeling tells me that all President Lukashenko of Belarus, the only real negotiations in this deal that had to take place, the only real negotiations that took place is how much money Putin had to give Pogroznin. Was it 100 million, 500 million, a billion, 2 billion, 5 billion? I can't think of any other reason why Pogroznin, while his motorcade, that's so wrong, while his convoy was literally in motion, would put up a hand, say, stop, we're turning around. Did Putin finally agree to give him the money he was looking for? It's the only thing I can think of. It's the only thing that makes sense. And so now here's Pogroznin with, again, 100 million, 500 million, billion, I don't know. Okay, soldiers of the Wagner Group, go be part of the military. I'm going to go retire some seaside resort in Belarus.
Well, the funniest thing is, Jeff, for years, I've read Sun Tzu's, The Art of War. And you look at these guys, and I've seen it in Russia, in which, Sun Tzu says, yes, there is the tactical aspect of war, and there's the political aspect. And the political aspect works to an end. But it doesn't command what's going to be done. It says, this is what we wish to achieve, and then the military will work from it, because the military has to look at so many things like terrain, men, training, equipment, and all of this. And I see, again, at least in my opinion, you got a guy who's had no military training. Hitler had nothing more than being just a corporal. Even his own general said, I got to take orders from this guy who's moving things about. And they have absolutely no training. And from what I can quietly pick up from things that I'm reading, not every Russian general, but most of them are like, he says, what the hell's going on? Move about. They had a prime example that the Russians were pulling out of Afghanistan, and even Afghanian rebels were kind of helping them to move along, not sarcastically. And then it comes down from the Politburo we're not going to just slowly walk out of Afghanistan. What we're going to do is we're going to take a stand here. And they said, well, what's the military strategy? There is none, which means there's a political strategy. And political strategies never succeed. Never succeed. And they turned on these guys who had befriended them, if you want to use that word, or I don't know, and then harassed them and was taking down numbers as they left. They were harassed all the way back into their own territory. And that's what I see with this guy. It's not a strategy of, we're going to do this. We're just going to hurt them a lot, and then they'll give up. And hey, you know what? If you guys don't want to go fight, I'll hire some guys. Well, that's great. Mercenaries are good until somebody comes on and says, what are you fighting for? $10 an hour. I'll give you 12. And they change sides. That's an age-old lesson. It sounds simplistic, but it really is. You know, there is no strategy even in their missile attacks. I mean, when the Germans bombed Berlin, when they bombed London, they wanted to just put fear into their hearts. Then we turned around and we did the same thing to them. The only thing was their Air Force had been defeated, and we literally had the equipment, the men, the money, and the materials to just bomb them into oblivion. But all the books I've ever read about it, as much as the German people suffered that, they were still willing to fight on. Even the Japanese, after 2 atomic bombs, were willing to die for the emperor. So sometimes, you know, a military strategy's got to have a point to an end. And with him, I just don't see it. And if I was one of his generals, I'd go, what are we doing? Hurting them? Oh, this is a good strategy. Yeah, we'll just, hey guys, go in there, lay some missiles down, shoot around, do what you can. You know, kill some people. What's our objective? Well, if we take the city, we can. If not, don't worry, we'll back up, and then we'll come back next Tuesday.
The one part of this that I will say is what I've heard a lot of the talking heads mention that I do think is 100% correct. And I mentioned it at the beginning of talking about this story. This idea that Putin's hold on power in Russia is absolutely locked down, ironclad, can't be affected, can't be changed, the only way he's leaving office is in a coffin, that kind of thing. I think it showed that's not exactly true.
No.
Again, I would point to you folks, if you have not seen the video of this, there isn't hours and hours of it. It's really only a couple little clips. I'm sure you can find it, typical search engine, just, Wagner Group in Rostov or something like that. And you will see videos of people taking pictures with the soldiers, giving them food, climbing on the tanks and the artillery and taking pictures. The Wagner soldiers taking control of the city, putting their military assets in the key intersections by transportation stations and media and so on, but just interacting with the public, not a heavy-handed, show me your papers sort of occupation, but what appeared to be if there is such a thing as a lighthearted occupation, this was probably it. And when Prigozhin, at the 120-mile mark away from Moscow, decides to turn around and go back to Rostov, once he reached Rostov, he was welcomed as a hero. He came in the typical, SUV that all these rich folks have, surrounded by his own soldiers. And people were taking pictures with him. He was doing selfies. He was shaking hands. I believe he did speak later, but I'm not certain of that. If the people of Russia, it would seem to me, if the people of Russia were so dedicated and just lockstep behind Putin the way we have all been told that they are, then it would seem to me that the people of Rostov would have immediately attacked the Wagner soldiers. if not attack them, at least, I don't know, sabotage some of the equipment, something like that. Fought back in some way. But they didn't. They appeared to be thrilled. Now, let's be honest. Again, as I said, there isn't hours and hours and hours of video of this to my knowledge. Rostov is a city of about 1.2 million people. It might have been 500 people in those intersections being cheerful. And maybe the rest of the city was getting ready to fight back. I honestly don't know. But I think the sheer numbers of people that you saw out there celebrating the Wagner takeover and occupation, as brief as it was, really does say something. And I would say, to somewhat agree with the media, that I think the only part of this story that is not yet set in stone is how much longer Prigozhin lives. Does he die by natural causes within the next few months? Does he take a mysterious bullet to the head in the next couple of days? He's going to...
A lot of the generals, again, when you're reading some of these, like, foreign policy and your Newsweek and all this, if they're, I don't know if they're saying it, if these are guys who have left in the European sector, but I know the one gentleman said this war is basically lost. If he was trying to build the good old Russian buffer zone, he lost it. He doesn't have it.
And it was lost within the first few weeks. I don't know what he's trying to hold on to now.
He said the Ukraine, yeah, big area. But he said it's kind of like you cut off your left hand to save the right hand. He said it's ridiculous. He says if this has to be a battle between East and West, he says you know where they're going to line up. They're already in NATO. He's the vital position to military high command centers in the Soviet Union through those nations of Poland and all this. Go back, look at the history. His buffer states are gone. All he's got is Ukraine in some small area. And it's, you want to just look at him and go, what are you trying to achieve? Because if you take, you're going to win the Ukraine and you've lost all the other states that you were talking about that has been under or alliance or neutral. You've lost them.
Nothing about this effort has worked.
No.
For Mr. Putin. Nothing. He told the Russian people that this would be over in 3 days. 16 months later, they control less territory than they did shortly after the invasion. Bettina asks in the comments, how does this help Ukraine? Well, the Wagner troops are currently out of Ukraine. That's at least 25,000 troops that are not currently fighting there. So that's a good thing straight out of the gate. Secondly, political unrest inside any enemy that you're fighting in war is a good thing. I happen to think, again, I haven't talked to anybody who lives in Rostov. I don't know anyone who lives in Rostov. This I will freely admit is a bit of speculation on my part, but I believe it to be somewhat educated speculation. That the reception by the people of Rostov to the Wagner occupation, and again, it lasted for, I think, a whopping 36 hours. If Wagner had taken full control and stayed in occupation for months, maybe the animosity would have grown. 36 hours, maybe they thought it was a kind of a fun, cool thing. It did have a party sort of atmosphere from what I saw. But that said, when the political situation in a nation that you are at war against is happening, civil unrest, you have competing forces inside the government of a nation you are fighting a war against, is a good thing, because it shows that the opinions about that war, or at a minimum how the war is being conducted, is now causing this internal strife inside of a government that we had all been told was in complete lockstep with anything that Putin wanted to do. Well, that's not true. We now know that. Prigozhin was, at one point, as close to any of the oligarchs throughout Russia has ever been to Putin. He was the head of Putin's private army. How a man went from a hot dog cart to heading a private army is a hell of a journey. It's a borderline American success story, if it wasn't so bloody and grisly and gruesome. But he was the head of Putin's private army. And then he himself turned on Putin and turned on the Russian military. If I'm a Ukrainian soldier, all the way up to President Zelensky themselves, I'm in a good mood. Now, I would say this too. I actually think that President Zelensky has not handled this quite well. He seems to be in a bit of a gloating mood. Look at the chaos in Russia. Look how dysfunctional it is. He's not wrong. But to me, this would be a time for Zelensky, who speaks perfect Russian, to get on any type of media he can find. Social media, TV, radio especially, and broadcast into Russia and say, look at what is happening inside your own government. Nothing that's happening in this government right now has anything to do with you. They don't care about you. They don't care what you think. You don't want this war. We don't want this war. You can stop it. These are rich people fighting amongst themselves on who's going to have more power and more wealth, while your sons, daughters, fathers, aunts, uncles go to die. He should be appealing to the Russian people directly.
I would love to get on the radio and just simply say one statement. To those of you wishing to support a former president who talks about how he's going to fire people in government, get rid of generals that don't follow the way, watch the news. Take a look at what you're seeing and tell me, how's that working? What will be the difference between that? You know, if you put that man back in there and they say to him, you can't do this. You cannot pull away from here. You need to support NATO. And he says, I don't like this. And he fires that person and he puts another one in and he keeps firing them. And I mean,
well, here's something that's tremendously. It never works. Here's another aspect of this that is tremendously interesting, and something that I've only seen one person talk about so far. It doesn't mean he's the only one. It's the only one I've seen. Ayman Mohyeldin on MSNBC did an entire, I think he did 2 segments with a panel. Boy, the Republicans are quiet, aren't they? Gosh, they're very, very quiet. This strong, brilliant, tactical genius leader of Russia, why are we supporting the Ukrainians in this, what is an internal Russian conflict and yada, yada, yada? God, they're very quiet now. They have nothing to say.
Their biggest thing is, can we go back and take away those impeachment papers? You know, is that a possibility that can that be done? You know, we just want to write history, and it's like, with all the things going on in the country, all the things going on in the world, that's the most important. Well, you would if you don't have anybody that you think you could run.
Well, I was going to get to that too. We're gonna get to all of that. because that
Well,
was government by gesture this week. But we were going to get to that actually.
Well, I'll just tell you, up here in central Pennsylvania, Jeff, the damn problem is that the Democrats of Biden get off his ass and just get out of it. Get out. Let them there Russians kill themselves, and all that bullshit about when we didn't involve ourselves in World War I and II, that's in the past. That's in the past, We'll put that other boy in, He talks good.
It is interesting.
Yeah. Hey, you take
The
care.
silence of the Republicans in the last, again, since this started in Russia has been deafening. Absolutely deafening silence.
They're like people walking on a rail over a fire pit, and they just really don't even want to try and maintain their balance. They figure if they lean a little to the left, a little right, maybe in the middle and backwards, forwards, they'll make it, and they're going to fall in. I hope. But,
and that's
your dog,
perfectly fine
your dog's
with me.
Okay. You all take care.
Yeah, reporting live from animal rehab. That is.
This was the Daisy Report.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably her. I can hear in the back. Okay, very good. Phone line is open, folks. 267-227-9189. Just read what's crawling across the bottom of the screen, and you will see that the phone line is open. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. It is extremely interesting that these Republicans, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Lauren Boeberts, the Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, even McCarthy, at times, McCarthy. Now, the last time he was overseas and he was challenged by a foreign reporter about how he didn't want to keep giving support to Ukraine, and he said, "You're absolutely wrong. I support Ukraine entirely," and all. But domestically, when he's on American soil, he has said differently. But this growing group of Republicans who has consistently taken the Russian side of things, they are all very, very quiet today. And I find it fascinating because one of their fascist heroes is in trouble. Now, do I think Mr. Putin's going to be leaving office this week? I do not. Do I think it could be anytime soon, within the next few months? Probably not. But this action by Prigozhin and Wagner has shown that his grip on Russia is not as complete, not as total, and not as just ironclad as we have been told. And it is my hope that Zelensky will move from a point of view of a bit of gloating and more to a point of, my Russian friends, your country's a mess. Let's end this war and build a peace together with a better government in Russia and a friendly, cooperative neighbor here in Ukraine. That would be the message that I would be taking. He is not, and I'm not, I certainly don't have a direct pipeline to him, that's for sure. But that's sort of the idea that I would be taking. 649, I can't see. I really can't see. 6:45 p.m. Eastern Time. George was going to join us, but George told me he has lost power at the house. There were some storms rolling through the area, and I have a feeling he lost power during those storms. But George is he is tuned in. He is always part of this family and this program family. And I actually owe George a little bit of an apology because we were going to get together and try and work out the phones so that I didn't have to hold the phone up to the microphone anymore. And I completely begged out of it. It's been a long, painful, no sleep, stressful kind of week. And, he offered me so many different times, let's just quick log on and we'll get through this. And I just couldn't do it. maybe it's a little bit of laziness. I don't know. It's what it is, and what it definitely is an extraordinary amount of exhaustion and just body pain, just overall pain everywhere. And all I really wanted to do this week was try to sleep and just get through the week, and thank goodness I did. There is something else I wanted to mention that I put on the header of the program, and I will go back to our Facebook page and scroll through the articles. Just let us chat about them just a little bit. But one of the big ones that happened this week is yet the Supreme Court has yet disgraced itself even further. Now, I think a lot of us not necessarily forgot about the open graft happening with Justice Thomas, but we were somewhat heartened when the Supreme Court, when Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Kavanaugh joined the three quote-unquote liberals and protected voting rights and struck down a racist congressional districting map in Alabama. And then we were quickly brought back to reality by hearing now that Justice Samuel Alito has been taking trips and private jets and hotels and hunting trips and fishing trips and huge speaking fees from Republican mega donors who have cases in front of the court. Now look, you might think that one does not directly affect the other. Well, think of it like this. You're at work. You're up for a promotion. You interview in front of a panel of maybe 3 other supervisors. 2 of them say you should be promoted, 1 doesn't. Who do you remember out of that? The next time you need to go to one of those people to say, I have a problem, I need advice, I think I deserve a raise. Who do you remember out of that? The 2 that voted for you, right? You're down on your luck. There's been a fire in the house. You lose your job. Someone loans you money. A year after that, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years after that, they come back to you because they need money. Who's the first person that you loan money to? The one that took care of you. To think that a Supreme Court justice is above and beyond being bribed is a ludicrous thought. So a Republican mega donor takes Samuel Alito on a fishing trip. Private jet, private hotel, all the best food and drink he could ever imagine. He's taken care of like complete royalty. And then that same person who paid for all of these things now has a case in front of the court that you are going to judge on. You telling me that Justice Alito doesn't think about things like that? Of course he does. Do you honestly think that the man who has been paying for homes and education and trips and vacations and private yachts for Justice Thomas, that when he comes in front of the court, that he doesn't look up at Thomas and they wink at each other and say, "No worry, I got you taken care of"? Of course they do. To every last extent that Donald Trump is not above the law, Clarence Thomas is not above the law. Samuel Alito is not above the law. Simply because they are Supreme Court justices does not mean that they are the law. They are not above it. In my mind, they are guilty of being bribed. They should both be impeached, tried, and jailed, and the people that bribed them should be jailed. Until something like that happens, it won't end. One nation on earth, after the Great Recession and the great banking collapse of 2007 and 2008, one nation jailed, arrested, tried, and jailed its biggest bankers, and that was Iceland. Iceland alone cannot control or have that deep of an effect on the world banking system, but they knew who the criminals were, and they went after them. They investigated them, they put them on trial, they were convicted, and they went to jail. This can be no different. Alito and Thomas are bought and paid for. They are actively ruling in cases brought with where the parties involved are the people who own them. And by the way, Republicans out there and right-wingers who I know listen, if that was Justice Sotomayor, who had taken all of these free luxuries from a Democratic donor, you'd be frothing at the mouth. Justice Thomas and Justice Alito should be impeached immediately. It's not going to happen because Republicans control the House. And we know that they only govern by grievance and gesture and innuendo and rumor and conspiracy theory and headlines and clicks. So it's not going to happen. But I would remind people of this, and this is one place that my party failed. The Constitution created 3, quote-unquote, co-equal branches of government. The executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Except that when they wrote the Constitution, it was the legislative that was listed first. The first among equals. And even within the legislative, the House has powers that the Senate does not. The People's House. What was, in comparison to the British Parliament, the House of Commons. The Senate being the House of Lords. The House must originate spending bills. It was the House that up until 1909? I have that wrong. Somebody will correct me. Grew proportionally to the increase in population in the country. There are congressional districts, some of them exceptionally tight and small, but only 2 senators per state. So when the Constitution was written, there are 3 co-equal branches, but Congress was listed first. Congress, of course, being the proper term for both houses, by the way. And even listed above that is the House of Representatives. The executive, that all of the Article 1 explanations and powers. Article 2, the executive branch, the presidency. Article 3, the judicial. I don't know why I'm twisting over my own tongue today. Article 3, the judicial. Section 2, Congress shall have the power to regulate the courts. And here's where Democrats failed. From January 20th, 2021 until January 1st of 2023. Democrats in control of both houses and did nothing to regulate the courts. They did not expand the Supreme Court. They did not add new federal district courts or new appellate courts. They did not impose the federal judicial standards, rules of standards. There's a word, I'm missing the term for it. Code of conduct, I believe, is how it's referred to. I think I have that right. They did not impose it on the Supreme Court when they could have. And that's our failure. And now we're seeing exactly why that was so important. I don't think, by the way, we needed to know that these men were crooked. I think we've always known it. Now they're just not afraid to hide it. They have nothing to hide. They're not even faking the idea of being on the up and up anymore. They don't even think they need to hide the fact that they're bought and paid for. They think so little of you. You've heard Justice Alito speak in public after the Dobbs decision, after he himself created law out of thin air and denied the constitutional right to privacy to every single one of us just to get rid of abortion. And then went on a series of speaking terms and said, I'm not a bad guy. You don't understand. He thinks he's better than you. And he's absolutely more educated on the law. There's no question. But he thinks he's better than you. He's a member of the Supreme Court. You're just average, everyday Americans. Don't matter to him. Unless you pay $1 million for a real fancy fishing trip in the Colorado Rockies or in the mountains of Utah or wherever, the rolling streams of Montana, then maybe he might listen. But up until that point, he doesn't even think you matter, that you exist. Cares nothing for you. Thomas is the same damn way. They're on the Supreme Court. They're better than you. They're smarter than you. You're just an average, everyday American. You're nothing to them. I genuinely believe this was a failure of my party not to use its own constitutional powers, by the way. Not powers that they would be seizing or taken or that were not outlined in the Constitution. They're right there. Article 3, Section 2, Congress shall have the power. And we failed to do it. And now we have a minimum of 2 Supreme Court justices that are flat out owned and will do the bidding of the people that own them. And oh, by the way, Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett, I don't think are any better. Remember, Kavanaugh's the one that had, $400,000 in personal debt just poof, disappear after he was nominated. Just completely disappeared. Like literally in a day, it was all paid off. 7 p.m. Eastern Time, entering the 3rd hour of the Kennedy Effect, live with you for June 25th, 2023. We will continue as long as I have articles to talk about until I run out of breath. I've already run out of water, so that's a really bad thing. I can't seem to get enough liquids in my body today. Milk, water, whatever I can find. I am drinking at an alarming rate. And I am exceptionally parched right now, and I got nothing left. I finished it. So I will go as long as I can, or as long as the phone rings, or as long as the comments keep coming in. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Number is right on the bottom of the screen as it moves across. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Wherever you are on Facebook, thank you for allowing us to be part of your Facebook universe. Stay right there, watch, listen, or come on over to our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. Check us out there. We are also live with you right now on our YouTube channel, which is also called That Other Side of Information. And if you have missed any of the programs so far, please know that you can go to our home, I got it wrong. Bleh, you got it wrong. You can go to our YouTube channel. Just because we're live there now doesn't mean that the show disappears. After it's over, it stays right there. And if you missed any of the program, you can go back to that YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information, click on this, and watch from the beginning. Take it in small bits, watch a little a day. However it is you want to take it in, I just invite you to please do so on all of our social media: Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. What am I missing? Oh, I got it. TikTok. Please consider, if not just flat out do, giving us a like or a subscribe. It's kind of the lifeblood of social media. Likes and subscribes. I hope that you will do exactly that. Whether you agree with me or not, because we should be talking to each other. Hot101.net, our name is our web address. If you have a device of any shape or form that can connect to the internet, then you can listen to us. Hot101.net. Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and the TuneIn radio app. And of course, you can tell Alexa to play Hot101.net. At the TCP Media Group, find them on Facebook. It is an important place to look to see what's going on around you. And of course, we are sponsored by our first and lone sponsor, but first of what we hope will be many more, the PayGive app. You can buy gift cards through the PayGive app and designate a portion of the money that you spend to go to charitable organizations or even political candidates from any place on the political spectrum. You're a Republican, you want to support a local Republican candidate, you can do that through the PayGive app. Go there, buy $100 Home Depot card, and a portion of that transaction goes to your candidate. Maybe you want to support the American Lung Association. You can do it there as well. Buy an Amazon card, a portion of your transaction goes to the American Lung Association, or maybe Shriners Hospital, or maybe the Red Cross, or any one of hundreds of different organizations that you can support through the PayGive app. PayGive. Download the PayGive app or go to www.paygive.org. PayGive, you have to pay for things anyway. Why not give while you pay? 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Let me get back to my phone, which is, severe thunderstorm warning in Jersey, so it's probably those that hit George. Let me get back to our Facebook so I can go through some of the additional articles. We'll try to, we'll take you as long as it goes. I'm kind of thinking that 7:30 is probably going to be it because it seems to be very quiet. Bettina has entered some wonderful comments in the chat. So has Randall, and I should get to some of those actually. Let me see. One of the main Randall states one of the main reasons the Roman Empire failed was their greater and greater reliance on mercenary legions. That is also correct, but also the other reason, the Senate, the richest in the empire, made a conscious decision that they should no longer be primarily responsible for paying for the empire. They wanted to hoard and keep their own wealth. They put the burden of the cost of empire on the poor. They dramatically increased taxes on poor people because rich people didn't want to pay anymore. The Romans actually had a progressive tax system. The more you were worth, the more you paid, until the rich didn't feel like paying anymore. Sound familiar? Never, never tell me that we can't learn from the lessons of history. We must learn from the lessons of history. Randall also mentions, God help us if Trump or another Republican winds up in the White House in 24, because the Supreme Court will be loaded with even more corrupt justices. He's correct. They always find a way to get their justices through, don't they? It's exactly why Democrats should have expanded the court. And by the way, not just by 2, I would put 15 justices on that court now. That means 6 more. I put a Latino, more women, and people in their 40s, by the way. Republicans know how to nominate and confirm young people. Mrs. Coney Barrett is in her 40s. Mr. Kavanaugh's in his 40s. They could I believe he was 47 when he was first sworn in. He could be there for 40 years. The damage they could do in 40 years. Mrs. Barrett, I believe, is 42 or was 42 when she was sworn in. And I could be wrong about that. She could be older. But I believe she was only 42 or 44. Let me get back to my group so I can take you through some of the other articles that I really wanted to mention. I mentioned in the show promotion about the submersible, the folks that were tourist diving to see the Titanic ruins, and of course they're all dead. The submersible imploded. It was crushed by the immense water pressure after the oxygen ran out. I'm not sure what I think of this, to be honest. It's not quite the same thing as if Bezos' rocket blew up when he was taking a joyride into orbit. Now, I can only imagine that you need a significant amount of money to do this, but not the same as launching yourself in a rocket around the planet. But if you've seen pictures of the submersible, it really does look like a rusted out oil barrel with a window cut in it. And it would seem to me that this is why we should always, well, maybe not always, but way more support than not support government regulation. I do have to wonder how regulated this company was. I'm immensely sad for the people who lost their lives, among which was a 19-year-old boy. It's a sad story, but it is a statement about safety, about regulation, about why we regulate things. Regulations are nothing more than protections. And it's a sad thing. And I thought it would be a bigger story, to be honest. I really did. And it seemed to gain steam as Canadian military forces, the U.S. Coast Guard, got involved in what was a rescue effort. But I found the whole coverage of it a bit odd. for bridge collapses, usually it's a big story. When a ship runs aground in the Aegean, and the people on board. What a case of trichinosis breaks out across a cruise ship, and and then we're doing deep dives on the industry for 2 weeks. I just thought this whole story was a bit odd. It's tragic. It's a real shame. But this is why things are regulated. This is why for-profit companies cannot, will not, and do not police themselves. And let's remember the pilot of the submersible is lost as well. I believe it was 5 people, if I'm not mistaken. 4 passengers and the pilot of the craft. This is why we regulate things. This is why regulations are protections. And it's why corporations will not regulate, and protect themselves, especially at the cost of profit. To allude to something that Randall was talking about earlier in the program, I posted an article 19 hours ago, and it tells you everything about what republicanism has become. Now, this week in the House of Representatives, rather than pass any sort of legislation to save Social Security, to expand care and coverages for veterans, or even to do what Republicans are really good at, this Republican House didn't even use this past week to pass legislation to eliminate corporate taxes. Instead, what they did was censure Adam Schiff, who was chair of the Judiciary Committee overseeing Trump's 2 impeachments. Instead, they decided to censure him. That's what the Republican House did this week. And it's why, exactly why, this is not a political party anymore. It's gesture and grievance and division. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to have Trump's impeachments expunged from the congressional record. Something, by the way, that is illegal and unconstitutional. But she wants it done anyway. She wants to make it as if they had never happened, and that if future historians were to look back in the congressional record, the impeachments would not be found, because they would be literally removed from the record. That's what Republicans did this week. As a much deeper example of what Republicans and Republicanism has become, I bring you this story. Again, from The Guardian, posted on our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information, just 19 hours ago. This is an article by, I should give the author, Maya Yang from The Guardian. And you can follow whenever you open an article from The Guardian, there's a place for you to follow. All you have to do is tap, and you can follow these great journalists. An Iowa meteorologist says he is resigning from the television station where he works because he has developed post-traumatic stress disorder after threats over his climate change coverage. On Wednesday, Chris Gloninger, and I might be saying that wrong, Gloninger, could be Gloninger or Cloninger, the chief meteorologist at Des Moines' CBS TV station affiliate KCCI, announced that he will be stepping down from his position and leaving his entire broadcasting career in July. Gloninger said in a statement on Twitter, 18 years, 7 stations, 5 states. I am bidding farewell to TV to embark on a new journey dedicated to helping solve the climate crisis, unquote. He added, quote, after a death threat stemming from my climate coverage last year and the resulting PTSD, in addition to family issues, I've decided to begin this journey now. Gloninger spent 18 years of his career covering climate change as well as the weather and became KCCI's chief meteorologist in 2021. He shared a number of the disturbing emails that he received on his coverage. They are quoted in the article. I will not share them because I will not give those folks any sort of airtime, as well as some of the language is quite salty. Bettina mentions they passed that the Republican House. Yeah, I don't know that that's 100% correct, but what else did we want to mention? Let me actually mention the ProPublica article that speaks of Samuel Alito's bribery. And sorry, I don't think it's anything. Well, I'm not really sorry. Well, it's become a reflex thing for people to say. I'm not sorry, but I don't think you can look at it any other way. Headline. This is a ProPublica article from June 20th, written by Justin Elliott, Joshua Kaplan, and Alex Majerski. And I might be butchering that name as well, but I think it's Majerski. Justice Samuel Alito took luxury fishing vacation with GOP billionaire who later had cases before the court. Now, I have seen reporting that this is not the only thing that he took. There are private jets, holidays, much of the same thing that Thomas took. In early July 2008, Samuel Alito stood on a riverbank in a remote corner of Alaska. The Supreme Court justice was on vacation at a luxury fishing lodge that charged more than $1,000 a day. After catching a king salmon nearly the size of his leg, Alito posed for a picture. To his left, a man stood beaming, Paul Singer, a hedge fund billionaire who has repeatedly asked the Supreme Court to rule in his favor in high-stakes business disputes. Singer was more than a fellow angler. He flew Alito to Alaska on a private jet. If the justice chartered the plane himself, the cost would have exceeded $100,000 one way. In the years that followed, Singer's hedge fund came before the court at least 10 times in cases where his role was often covered by the legal press and mainstream media. In 2014, the court agreed to resolve a key issue in a decade-long battle between Singer's hedge fund and the nation of Argentina. Alito did not recuse himself from the case and voted with the 7-1 majority in Singer's favor. Alito did not report the 2008 fishing trip on his annual financial disclosures. By failing to disclose the private jet flight Singer provided, Alito appears to have violated federal law. Just like Thomas, he's bought and paid for. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189 is the phone line. If no one rings in or I don't see any more additional comments, I'll probably leave you at the bottom of the hour. Bettina mentions that she didn't quite understand about the impeachment things that moved through the Republican House this week. I didn't either. I know that Marjorie Taylor Greene has brought up 2 potential paths for impeachment. I believe Boebert is involved in that as well. They are groundless. It's performance art. It's the same thing with censuring Adam Schiff. It's the same thing with trying to expunge Trump's impeachments from the record. This is government by gesture. It's government by clown show. It's government by performance art. This Republican House has not even tried to do the things that Republicans traditionally do. They didn't try to impose a federal death penalty. They didn't try to steer money to religious organizations. They didn't try to cut or eliminate corporate taxes or cut the capital gains tax again. No, they're not even doing the traditional crap that Republicans used to do. They didn't try to outlaw unions. Right? No, this is what they spent the week doing. Censuring Adam Schiff because he led 2 perfectly legal investigations of Donald Trump. This is not a functioning political party anymore. And I'll tell you what, and I have said it here too many times, I'm thrilled that my party's the only one left, but it's not good for democracy. It is not. It's not good for democracy. We need a minimum of 2 functioning political parties, national in scope, and in reach. Not just working families who can't get on ballots, not Greens who can't get on ballots. Personally, I'd love to change the law so they could all get on the ballot. I think a parliamentary system would do this country a world of good. The 2 parties have rigged the system to make sure that they are the only 2 parties. And if there was only going to be one functioning political party left, I'm glad it's mine. But it's not good for democracy. It's not. Democracy demands countering and opposing views. The only opposing views that Democrats and Republicans have now is that everything Democrats bring up, Republicans hate. Excuse me, dry throat. That's not an opposing view. Republicans have become ridiculous to the point that if Democrats found a cure for cancer, Republicans would do everything to stop it and devise a dozen different conspiracy theories about it. And then the minute after Democrats lost power, the Republicans would claim that cure and say they developed it. Republicans are not interested in governing. They are interested in power. They are sure as hell interested in money and directing that money to the people that own them. It's interesting how an entire former political party filled of people who don't even think that government should exist want to control it so badly. And supposedly all they want to do is cut taxes for people and shrink the size of government, but yet want to give all your tax money to the people that own them. Socialism for the rich, rugged individualism for the poor. I believe it was one of Dr. King's quotes. I paraphrased it. I want to leave you with a very depressing story. Again from The Guardian, shared by The Guardian from the Associated Press. The U.S. honeybee hives just staggered through the second highest death rate on record, with beekeepers losing nearly half of their managed colonies and a survey of those beekeepers found. But by using costly and Herculean measures to create new colonies, beekeepers are somehow keeping afloat. So what does that mean? It means that even with the staggering losses of beehives, they created so many new beehives that they're essentially flat. They had 50 hives, they created 100 more, but they lost 100 of them. They were still at 50. The real story is they lost that many. No bees, no food. Period. Bees are pollinators. This is simple science that we all learned in elementary school. The bees fly on the flowers, the pollen gets on their fur, wings, feet. They fly to another flower and they carry the pollen with them and they pollinate and spread the plants as they go. And all we've done in this country is spray everything with weed killer and bug killer, and we've killed the bees. No bees, no pollination, no bees, no food. 50% of all the hives in the country died last year. How much longer can that go on? When you combine that with the fact that we are poisoning the soil to a point where it is ungrowable because we've laced it with genetically engineered seeds and Roundup and glyphosates, which just causes cancer to everybody, and we continue to grow the same crops in the soil over and over and over again instead of rotating different crops to revitalize the soil. And we dig perfectly good farmland up to put a pipeline underneath it. And God forbid, if we allowed farmers to grow hemp or marijuana where we could actually recover some of this land, oh, but we can't do that anyway. It's a stage 1 drug. And by the way, corporations haven't really figured out how to completely monetize it yet, so we can't allow that either. Look, if a giant asteroid comes and destroys the planet, all the money in the world isn't going to save you. But being fabulously wealthy might save you from starving. But it isn't going to save the rest of us. Let me leave you tonight with a very exciting announcement for what I think is a really exciting announcement for our program. As I said, I haven't decided whether we're going to be here next week or not. I guess I kind of have to gauge how many companies are going to be closed. Is it going to be like a really long 4-day weekend for most Americans? You know, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is the 4th, and then we kind of go back to normal. I'm not sure. I'm genuinely unsure whether we're going to be here or not. I was planning on doing a program because the holiday actually falls midweek. I'm actually working. You know, I had planned to get into that. Maybe I should get into that. I'm not sure. I'll be working the 4th of July because, you know, holidays and weekends, an American workforce, we don't have that anymore. Hell, I was on call this whole week. I worked about 18 hours a day, 7 straight days. Because every time the phone rang, I had to answer it. And a lot of that work's free. So I'll be working on the 4th of July. It's no holiday for me. And a lot of Americans will be. A lot of Americans will be. I'm not alone. It's not please shed no tears for me. But I'm not 100% sure quite yet if we were going to do a program or not. Because it fell on a Tuesday, I was thinking we would be here. I'm having second thoughts only because I think a good number of Americans will just take the 4-day weekend, you know, Saturday into Wednesday. Plus, it's summer. Our listenership and our viewership always drops off in the summer for perfectly good reasons. I mean, if you can go out and relax, you don't need to be sitting around listening to us. I get that. But here's the cool thing, and I want you to Google this if you don't know who he is, or DuckDuckGo. On July the 9th, we have scheduled, because things happen, a really, really exciting guest. Former U.S. House Representative Joe Walsh of Illinois. If you don't know Representative Walsh, he has become one of, if not the most bluntly speaking, vociferous, plain-spoken, truth-telling, in-your-face sort of explainers, if you will, of what Republicans have become. A man who was a Republican himself, actually still considers himself one to a great extent. He actually ran in the primary against Trump in 2020. It didn't last very long. He didn't get a hell of a lot of traction because right-wing media ignored him and there was just no money came in, which he'll tell you. He's been on MSNBC a lot, telling other talking heads and the hosts that the Republican Party is essentially dead, that it can't be saved and reclaimed, that it has become an authoritarian, autocratic, fascist party. And Joe Walsh was one. Joe Walsh was Marjorie Taylor. Joe Walsh was Jim Jordan before Jim Jordan. He was out there. He just said wild things to get attention and to get money and to get reelected. But he also deserves a tremendous amount of credit because he now knows better. I suspect, and I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying this, I suspect that Representative Walsh and I, if he stays with us long enough, and I don't know how long he's going to stay yet, I've told him he's welcome to stay for the full 4 hours. It doesn't mean he has to, just like any guest. But if we do get to a section of the program where we get a chance to just talk about issues and not only have to deal with what has happened to the end of the Republican Party, because I think every time I see him, he basically agrees with that idea that the Republican Party no longer exists and is no longer functional. But if we do get to a section of the program where we get to talk about issues like, what do we do about Social Security and education and national defense and environmental policy and so on, I suspect he and I won't agree on much of anything. But we do agree that democracy should exist, that the will of the voters is the ultimate judgment of what happens in our country, that candidates should seek voters rather than the candidates picking the voters through gerrymandering and so on and so on. I suspect that we'll disagree a lot about policy, and that's healthy and it's good for the country. But when you have an entire political structure who simply doesn't want the form of government that we have grown to know to even exist anymore, that's a terrible thing. And I leave you with this in the spirit of announcing that Representative Walsh is going to be joining us. I leave you with this last article written by Brendan Fisher. This is from Friday, June 23rd, also from The Guardian. You can follow Mr. Fisher. This was a scary article. So in the spirit of announcing that Representative Walsh will be joining us, I leave you with this. A Florida group primarily funded by an Illinois billionaire is driving the recent attacks on direct democracy in states such as Ohio, Missouri, South Dakota, and Arkansas. The Foundation for Government Accountability. They always name their groups the opposite of what they actually are trying to accomplish. They're brilliant at it. A Florida-based group affiliated with the Alliance of Conservative Think Tanks called the State Policy Network. It's very similar to ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council that the Kochs own and operate, has played a key role in recent efforts to raise the threshold for passing citizen ballot initiatives from a simple majority to a super majority. Notice the skill of this. Well, we're not against ballot initiatives. They just want to make them more and more difficult to pass, because ballot initiatives are the purest form of democracy. Among the most recent ballot initiatives that have passed around the nation are protecting women's reproductive rights. So now we need to shut that down. The short-sightedness of this is that ballot initiatives work both ways. When a ballot initiative got to the ballot in California to allow Uber, Lyft, and other gig workers to unionize, Uber and Lyft spent $100 million to defeat it, and defeated it quite soundly. They lied about it. They misled the California public about what the workers were actually trying to do. And the initiative itself ended up being changed through court proceedings to muddy the language so much that some people didn't exactly even know what they were voting for or what the right way to vote was, because the language was so muddied. But generally speaking, ballot initiatives do not go the way of the right wing and the billionaires. So what do we have to do? Make it harder. Now, from a public-facing point of view, we're not, we might be making a little more. We're not trying to get rid of them. We don't want to get rid of them. No, gosh, we support them. We're just going to make it damn near impossible for them ever to pass. That's what this is. It is a direct attack on democracy, period. Back to the article now. These efforts are designed to derail citizen-led ballot initiatives to protect abortion rights, raise the minimum wage, or expand Medicaid. In effect, FGA, Foundation for Government Accountability, and its allies seek to give 41% of the voting population an effective veto over the wishes of the other 59%. That's it. Republicans have mastered minority rule. By the way, the founders and framers of this country never intended for minority rule. They did build in protections for the minority, but never that the minority would rule the majority. Everything that Republicans have based themselves on currently is at a very, very minimum unethical and dirty. At the most, it's unconstitutional. And yet somehow they're the ones that seem to wrap themselves in the Constitution. It is 7:40 Eastern Time, and I believe we've done all the damage that we can do for this week. To all of our friends on Facebook, to every single group, page, and individual that has shared our program or allowed us to be part of your corner of the Facebook universe, we are eternally grateful. We hope you will continue to do so. We think what we do here is pretty stinking important, but yet not too darn full of ourselves that we think we're more important or smarter than anybody else. And a growing number of people, individuals, groups, and pages have agreed with us, and we are desperately grateful for you doing that. and we hope that you continue to do so. People like Randall, I know, share our program around to friends and family every single week. We hope you all will do the same. Friends, family, people that you think need to be talked to, maybe even some places where we wouldn't normally, quote unquote, kind of belong or be welcome. We very much humbly beg you to continue to share our program to as many groups and pages as you feel comfortable doing. And we are eternally grateful for you doing so. To our sisters and brothers and friends at hot101.net, again, if you don't know how to listen to hot101.net, you haven't been listening to me, that's for darn sure. Hot101.net, our name is our web address, Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and the TuneIn radio app. Bluetooth it to anything that you can. If your device connects to the internet, you can listen to hot101.net 24/7 and every single place around the globe and even up in space. And of course, you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. Please check out the TCP Media Group on Facebook, a very important and really vital voice in the discourse here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and throughout the country, really, because what happens here affects you, what happens to you affects us. And please don't forget our one and only, but we hope the first of many, sponsors to our program, the PayGive app. www.paygive.org. Go to the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and search for the PayGive app. Buy gift cards, make transactions, and a portion of your financial transactions goes to the designated charity or even political candidate of your choice. And candidates all across the spectrum, not just Democratic candidates that I support, but if you're a Republican and you have a Republican candidate you want to support, you can do it through the PayGive app. Look, we all shop and we all have to pay for things. Well, if we have to pay anyway, let's give along the way. The PayGive app, www.paygive.org. We all have to pay for things. Let's give when we pay. For everyone at hot101.net, DJ Lex, DJ Earl, DJ Waterboy, Chino, I'm forgetting a bunch, which I apologize deeply, but for the entire hot101.net family, remember, available 24/7 to the entire hot101.net family, to the entire TCP Media Group, Whitney, Taekwon, Andrew, and Marquise, to my dear friend and associate producer or technical producer of the program, George Dare, and his wife, Lynn, to my in-laws and family, to Daisy the dog, who continues to recover at an alarming pace, really heartening pace, really makes me quite thrilled, actually, as you can imagine. And to, of course, to April Riddick, to Bob Kosh, who got me hooked up with the good folks at PayGive, who are now supporting this program. And tell them I sent you, by the way. If you do download the PayGive app and you start to use it, let them know we here at the Kennedy Effect sent you. And of course, to my much, much, much better half, Kristen, I am Jeff Kennedy. Take a break. Go get something to eat. Get some ice cream, have a milkshake, take a walk, take the dog out, take a nap, fold some laundry, whatever it is you have to do for the next hour or so. Coming up at 9 on hot101.net, and I think a little bit earlier on Facebook, actually. I've noticed they've been getting on a little early. The Villain's View, Sergeant Thomas McCormick, Sergeant Mac, a member of the hot101.net family. And of course, I was very, very humbled and pleased to actually sit in and host the program for him 1 week. Hope they'll have me back at some point. It was a real honor to do that, and I hope that he will be coming back to visit us at some point as well. You know, when you're in Sergeant Mac's position and you got to do another 2 hours of radio after ours, I can understand why he isn't visiting the same way that he used to, but I certainly hope that he will. And of course, we know that the door is always open. So please stay tuned to the Facebook group page and the other places that we share as we decide within this next week whether we're going to be with you next Sunday or not. I honestly don't know. I just kind of don't know. I actually think my work is going to have something to do with that. Like if we're super, we don't get a lot of customers saying that they're going to be working on Monday, then kind of makes me think that Sunday is going to be kind of an off day for a lot of people that stay up late. They can barbecue late and things like that because they don't have to go to work on Monday. So we'll just try to get a gauge of it during the week. I honestly can't say if we're going to be here next Sunday or not, but I can guarantee you, barring anything unforeseen, we will be here on July 9th with former U.S. House Rep and current, I don't want to say pundit, but he's a guest on a lot of different places saying really, really important things. And he also hosts his own show as well. U.S. Rep Joe Walsh will be with us on July 9th. I'm really thrilled and excited to welcome him to the program. I think we've done all the damage we can do. So again, stay with us. Stay with us, and we'll let you know what's coming next week. Just not sure yet. I know that sounds ridiculous. I should have my mind made up, but I just honestly don't know quite yet. So stick around as to what we're doing for July 2nd. We will be with you on July 9th. Until then, I ask you, please continue likes, shares, subscribe. The Villain's View from 9 p.m. And please take care of yourselves and each other. We are a community and we are a society. Let's act like it. Take care of yourselves and each other. We care about you here at the program and we want to see you back. Share, like, subscribe. We look forward to seeing you next time that we are live. Thank you to everybody. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Have a good night.